You'll never get any place. You can't do this, you can't do it. I don't discuss that any more than what I have just now. I know you get a lot of rejection talk.
Behind the dazzling smile of Lucille Ball, Hollywood's beloved redhead, was a reality caught between triumph and tragedy. Her two complex marriages, her two children who inherited her legacy, and the fortune she built throughout her career. Her final days were marked by sadness, yet she left behind a legacy that continues to inspire generations. What truly went on in the life of America's comedy queen? Join us as we delve into the untold chapters of Lucille Ball's extraordinary life. The rise of a star. Lucille Desiree Ball was born August 6, 1911, in Jamestown, New York. She was the firstborn child and the only daughter in her family. Her father, Henry Durrell Ball, who everyone called Had, worked hard as a lineman for Bell Telephone, while her mother, Desiree Evelyn, better known as Dedi, stayed at home. Their family practiced the Baptist faith, and some of her ancestors were among the earliest settlers in America, who had left England for the Massachusetts Bay Colony centuries before. Because of her father's job, the family moved often when Lucille was a young child. They first went to Anaconda, Montana, and then settled for a time in Trenton, New Jersey. But life took a tragic turn when Lucille was just 3 years old. While living in Wyandotte, Michigan, her father fell terribly ill and passed away from typhoid fever at only 27. Lucille was too young to fully understand the weight of the moment, but she always remembered a strange incident from that day. The day her father passed, a bird got trapped inside their house. That troubling memory sparked a fear of birds that stayed with her for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, around that time, her mother was pregnant with Lucille's younger brother, Fred Ball. After the heartbreak, Dee decided to return to New York, where her parents could help raise the children. They settled in Celeron, a charming village near Chautauqua Lake, known for being a lively summer resort. Lucille grew up in a modest home at 59 West 8th Street. The house was filled with extended family. Her aunt and uncle, Lola and George Mandicos, lived there, along with their daughter Cleo, who was Lucille's first cousin and close companion. Cleo and Lucille grew up side by side, and their bond stayed strong as they got older. Later on, Cleo would even become a producer on Lucille's radio and television shows, and it was Lucille herself who introduced Cleo to her future husband, the well-known critic Cecil Smith. Life in Celeron had its own kind of magic. Lucille loved spending time at Celeron Park, a place full of excitement and energy. The park had a boardwalk that led straight into the lake, where children could enjoy sliding into the water. There was a grand ballroom, a thrilling roller coaster, a lively bandstand, and a stage that came alive with vaudeville performances. These early experiences in such a vibrant setting planted the seeds of Lucille's love for entertainment. After several years, her mother remarried. Dee Dee's new husband, Edward Peterson, tried to build a stable life for their family, but while he and Dee Dee looked for work in another city, Lucy and Fred were left in the care of Edward's parents. Their home, however, was strict and cold. Her step-grandparents, who were stern and deeply religious, didn't allow mirrors in the house except for one small one in the bathroom. When young Lucille dared to admire herself in it, she was harshly scolded for vanity. When she turned 12, her stepfather saw something special in her and suggested she audition for a local Shriners show that needed performers. Standing on stage for the first time, Lucille felt a rush of excitement and, more importantly, the joy of being recognized and appreciated. But life wasn't easy. In 1927, her family's financial troubles forced them to leave their home in Jamestown and move into a cramped apartment, having sold their house and belongings to pay off debts. At just 14, Lucille began seeing Johnny DeVita, a 21-year-old from town with a rough reputation. Her mother disapproved, but found it difficult to end the romance. Hoping to distract Lucille and steer her toward a better future, Dee enrolled her daughter in the John Murray Anderson School for the Dramatic Arts in New York City. Even though money was tight, her mother believed in giving Lucille a chance at a different life. At the school, she studied alongside future stars like Bette Davis. But her teachers doubted her abilities and made no effort to hide their low expectations. Lucille refused to let criticism break her spirit, so she pressed on. In 1928, determined to prove everyone wrong, she returned to New York City. There, she found work as a model for the famous Hattie Carnegie. Following Carnegie's instructions, she dyed her brown hair blonde and learned the subtle art of elegance. She practiced wearing lavish dresses and luxurious fur coats with effortless grace, lessons that would stay with her throughout her career. Unfortunately, just as her dreams were beginning to take shape, Lucille's journey hit another obstacle. She fell seriously ill with rheumatic fever, which kept her from working for 2 long years. But even then, her passion for performance never faded. She held on to her dreams with quiet determination, ready to rise again the moment she could, in search of fame. In 1932, she found herself back in New York City, chasing her dream of becoming an actress once again. To make ends meet, she picked up familiar jobs, working at Carnegie and also promoting cigarettes as the Chesterfield Girl. She went by the name Diane Belmont at the time, sometimes spelled Diane, as she tried to get a foothold in the world of Broadway. She managed to get roles in chorus lines, but those opportunities were short-lived. She landed some parts, but was soon let go by big names like Earl Carroll, who fired her from his Vanities show, and Florenz Ziegfeld Jr., who cut her from a touring production of Rio Rita. Her luck slowly began to shift when she landed an uncredited spot as one of the glamorous Goldwyn girls in Roman Scandals in 1933, alongside stars like Eddie Cantor and Gloria Stewart. That experience pushed her to move to Hollywood for good, setting her sights on a future in film. In the early days, she played many small roles throughout the 1930s under contract with RKO Radio Pictures. She took whatever part she could get, even appearing in a comedy short with the Three Stooges in Three Little Pigskins in 1934, and alongside the Marx Brothers in Room Service in 1938. Her first official screen credit finally arrived in 1936 with the film Chatterbox. She kept busy, showing up in several well-known Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers musicals. She appeared in Roberta in 1935 as one of the featured models, played a flower shop clerk in Top Hat the same year, and took on a small role at the start of Follow the Fleet in 1936. That same year, she got a bigger break in Stage Door, acting as an aspiring actress alongside Katharine Hepburn and Ginger Rogers, who happened to be her distant relative on her mother's side. In 1936, she hoped to find her big chance to return to Broadway when she was cast in Hey Diddle Diddle, a play written by Bartlett Cormack. Set in a Hollywood duplex apartment, it followed the story of 3 roommates trying to navigate the chaos of demanding directors, confused producers, and self-centered stars while chasing their dreams. The play premiered in Princeton, New Jersey in early 1937, with her playing Julie Tucker, one of the roommates. Critics were kind to the show, but things quickly fell apart. The lead actor, Conway Tyrrell, was in failing health, which caused tension behind the scenes. Cormack wanted to replace him, believing it would save the play, but the producer, Ann Nichols, thought the problem was with the character itself and insisted on rewriting the role instead. They couldn't find common ground, and just a week into the Washington, D.C. run, the show ended abruptly when Tyrrell's health took a serious turn for the worse. While chasing acting roles, she also turned to radio, like many actresses trying to widen their reach. In 1937, she became a regular on The Phil Baker Show, which lasted until 1938. When that ended, she joined the cast of The Wonder Show. It was on this show that she met the announcer Gail Gordon, beginning a professional connection that would stretch over the next 50 years. The Wonder Show ran for only one season, wrapping up in April 1939. By the 1940s, she was under contract at MGM, where she met silent film legend Buster Keaton and director Edward Sedgwick. They both became mentors, teaching her the tricks of physical comedy and how to handle props in ways that could make any scene more entertaining. In 1940, she starred in Dance, Girl, Dance, and led the cast in Too Many Girls. It was on the set of Too Many Girls that she met Desi Arnaz, the charming Cuban band leader who played one of her character's bodyguards. Though she had signed with MGM, major stardom remained out of reach. Around Hollywood, she became known as the Queen of the B-movies, a title shared by other stars of lesser-known films. She filled her filmography with many such movies, including Five Came Back. Not long after, MGM producer Arthur Freed bought the rights to the Broadway hit Du Barry Was a Lady with Ann Sothern in mind. But when Sothern turned it down, the role went to Lucille instead. It was fitting, since the two were close friends in real life. She also played herself in Best Foot Forward in 1943. A few years later, she starred in Lover Come Back and took on a darker role in the film Noir: The Dark Corner. She also played a taxi dancer caught in a dangerous game in the crime mystery Lured. The following year, she landed a part that would help shape her comedic legacy, playing Liz Cooper in the radio sitcom My Favorite Husband. This marked the beginning of her famed career. I Love Lucy. After her radio show My Favorite Husband became a hit, CBS wanted to bring it to TV. Lucille agreed, but only if her real-life husband, Desi Arnaz, could play her on-screen partner. The network hesitated, unsure if audiences would accept a Cuban man and an American redhead as a couple. To prove them wrong, Lucille and Desi hit the road with a live show. Lucille played her usual zany housewife character, desperate to join her husband's band. The live act was a roaring success, and CBS finally agreed to give their show a spot on television. This is how I Love Lucy was born. The show ran from 1951 to 1957, becoming a cultural phenomenon. For Lucille, it wasn't just about comedy and fame, it was also her way of holding her marriage together. Their relationship had grown tense over time, not only because of their crazy schedules, but also because Desi had a wandering eye. Behind the scenes, they were struggling, but on screen, they made magic. Lucille and Desi faced another big challenge early on. They wanted to stay in Los Angeles, but broadcasting live from California wasn't ideal for East Coast viewers. Sponsors like Philip Morris pushed them to move because they didn't want delayed or poor quality broadcasts. Instead of relocating, Lucille and Desi made a bold offer. They agreed to take a pay cut to film the show in high-quality 35mm film, only if they could keep the rights to their episodes. CBS agreed, not realizing the goldmine they were giving up. I Love Lucy soared in popularity, becoming one of the most watched shows in America. The chemistry between Lucille and Desi was electric. In one famous moment, when Lucy and Ricky practiced the tango, the audience laughed for so long that the sound editor had to trim it just to keep the episode running smoothly. During breaks from the show, the couple worked together in films like The Long, Long Trailer and Forever Darling. Even after I Love Lucy ended, the beloved cast continued with special hour-long episodes until 1960. Beyond making people laugh, Lucille Ball was quietly building an empire. She became the first woman to head a major TV production company, Desilu. After she and Desi divorced, she bought his share and took full control of the studio. Under her leadership, Desilu produced legendary shows like Star Trek, Mission Impossible, and The Untouchables. She also revolutionized the way sitcoms were filmed, using multiple cameras and live audiences, techniques that are still standard today. Even while running a studio, Lucille kept acting and exploring new roles. She starred in The Lucy Show and Here's Lucy, where she worked alongside her two children. She also returned to the stage in the Broadway musical Wildcat, but had to leave early due to illness. Her career stretched across radio, movies, and TV, and she even taught comedy workshops, though she believed natural talent mattered most. Lucille worked with many famous faces throughout her career. She had deep friendships with stars like Vivian Vance, Judy Garland, and Ginger Rogers. She became a mentor to rising talents like Carol Burnett, and their bond lasted until Lucille's final days. She often appeared on talk shows, sharing funny stories from her life, like the time she accidentally picked up Japanese radio signals through the fillings in her teeth. In 1979, after decades with CBS, Lucille signed with NBC to create new specials, though only one ended up airing. She continued performing in comedy specials and even tried dramatic roles. Though her 1986 show Life with Lucy didn't last long, Lucille's passion for performing never faded. She was honored with awards, taught at a university, and co-founded a production company at 20th Century Fox with her second husband, Gary Morton. Lucille never stopped chasing new opportunities. She stayed active well into the 1980s, hosting retrospectives and celebrating the comedy shows she loved. Her final public appearance came at the 1989 Academy Awards, where she received a standing ovation. Just a month later, she passed away, leaving behind an unforgettable legacy. Lucille Ball didn't just change television, she made it brighter, bolder, and more joyful for generations to come. 2 husbands, children, and net worth. Back in 1940, while working on the film version of the popular stage musical Too Many Girls, Lucille Ball met Desi Arnaz, a Cuban-born bandleader with a lively spirit and magnetic charm. The moment they crossed paths, something sparked between them, and they quickly grew close. Not long after, with excitement in the air, they eloped on November 30 of that year, just 2 months after the movie hit the screens. Their whirlwind romance was full of energy, and although Arnaz was called up for military service in 1942, his knee injury meant he was kept away from active combat. Instead, he stayed in Los Angeles, pouring his efforts into organizing and performing in USO shows that brought moments of joy and relief to wounded soldiers returning from the Pacific battlefront. Despite their passionate beginning, their marriage faced stormy weather. In 1944, Lucille Ball took steps toward ending their union, filing for divorce, and even securing an interlocutory decree. But something held them together. Before the final papers were processed, they found their way back to each other, setting aside the troubles that almost ended their marriage. And life soon took a bright turn. Just a few weeks before of her 40th birthday, on July 17, 1951, Lucille Ball welcomed her first child, a daughter named Lucy Desiree Arnaz. About a year and a half later, the family grew again when she gave birth to their son, Desiderio Alberto Arnaz IV, better known as Desi Arnaz Jr. What made this moment even more special was that their hit show, I Love Lucy, was already a big success by then. Instead of hiding her pregnancy, Lucille and Desi chose to weave it into the storyline of the show, bringing a real and heartfelt touch to their fictional lives. Her scheduled cesarean section in real life even matched the day her character on television gave birth, creating a unique and memorable crossover between fiction and reality. However, times were different back then. CBS, the network airing I Love Lucy, had strict rules. They wouldn't allow the word pregnant to be spoken on air, nor would they comfortably show a pregnant woman on television. It took a series of approvals from religious leaders for the storyline to move forward. Even then, the network insisted that the word expecting be used instead. Desi, always the entertainer, found a way to make even this restriction funny by deliberately mispronouncing it as spectin, which got plenty of laughs from audiences. The episode itself carried the title, Lucy is enceinte, borrowing a French word for pregnant. though titles were never shown on screen during that era. When the episode aired on January 19, 1953, an astonishing 44 million viewers tuned in to watch Lucy Ricardo welcome little Ricky. Meanwhile, in real life, Lucille Ball gave birth to Desi Jr. in Los Angeles on that very same day. The event was so monumental that it landed on the cover of the very first issue of TV Guide, forever marking it as a milestone moment in television history. By 1956, the beloved cast of I Love Lucy, Ball, Arnaz, Vivian Vance, and William Frawley reunited for a special appearance on a Bob Hope NBC broadcast. It was the only time all four appeared together in color television, making it a rare and cherished moment for fans. As the decade came to a close, their production company, Desi, had grown into a major force in Hollywood. But with that success came intense pressure, and the weight of running such a big enterprise took a toll on both Lucille and Desi. On March 3, 1960, just a day after Desi's 43rd birthday, and only a day after filming the final episode of the Lucy-Desi Comedy Hour, Lucille Ball filed for divorce again, this time calling her marriage a nightmare and saying it was nothing like the cheerful scenes viewers saw on their show.
Had an unhappy marriage, and you've disappointed millions of people by getting a divorce. I think more than one. You don't run off in a week.
The divorce was finalized on May 4, 1960. Despite the end of their marriage, Lucille and Desi remained in each other's lives as close friends, often speaking warmly of their shared history until Desi's passing in 1986. The echoes of her real-life heartbreak seemed to shape the role she played afterward, as she was consistently cast as a widow in her future television work. In 1961, Lucille took to the Broadway stage in the musical Wildcat, where she met actress Paula Stewart. That friendship led to another chapter in Lucille's life, as Stewart introduced her to Gary Morton, a stand-up comic from the Borscht Belt, who happened to be 13 years younger than Lucille. They married later that year on November 19, 1961. Gary Morton, unfamiliar with I Love Lucy due to his own busy schedule, soon became an integral part of Lucille's professional world. She brought him into her production company, taught him the ins and outs of the television business, and eventually made him a producer. He even appeared in small roles across her various shows. Together, they built a comfortable life, with homes in Beverly Hills, Palm Springs, and Colorado's scenic Snowmass Village. Lucille often expressed her joy about finding Morton, once writing to a friend that she had truly picked a winner. After almost 2 decades with Desi, she hadn't expected to marry again, but she was genuinely happy that she did. Though she remained protective over her children, even voicing disapproval of her son's relationships, particularly with actress Patty Duke. Reflecting on her son's time dating Liza Minnelli, she remarked that Liza was not someone who could easily settle down. At the time of her passing in 1989, Lucille Ball had built an empire with a net worth of around $60 million, roughly $125 million today. Known not just for her talent, but also for her sharp business mind, she broke barriers as the entertainment industry's first female mogul. Together with Desi, she had cleverly secured ownership of their own show. In 1957, they sold the I Love Lucy episodes to CBS for a remarkable $4.5 million, the equivalent of $40 million today. Lucille later bought out Desi's share of their company for $2.5 million, and a few years later sold the entire company to Gulf Plus Western for an incredible $17 million, which today would be around $130 million. Her legacy, both on screen and behind the scenes, continues to echo for years. Death, achievements, and legacy. In April 1989, Ball found herself rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Chest pains had struck without warning, and they turned out to be far more serious than anyone first thought. Doctors quickly diagnosed her with a dissecting aortic aneurysm, dangerously close to her heart. Without wasting time, they prepared her for an intense and complicated surgery. For 7 long hours, surgeons worked tirelessly, repairing her aorta and placing a new aortic valve to help her heart keep going. The procedure was successful, and for a moment it seemed like she had pulled through the worst. But less than 10 days later, while still recovering in the hospital, Ball suddenly woke up with excruciating pain in her back. Before help could arrive, she lost consciousness. Despite all efforts, she passed away early in the morning on April 26. Doctors later discovered that this time, it wasn't the part of her aorta they had just repaired. A separate abdominal aortic aneurysm had ruptured, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Her passing left a deep void, and to honor her remarkable life, 3 separate memorial services were held. Her remains were cremated and initially placed at Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills Cemetery in Los Angeles, resting near her mother. Years later, in 2002, fulfilling her own wishes, Ball's ashes, along with her mother's, were moved to the family plot at Lakeview Cemetery in Jamestown, New York. Her brother, Fred Henry Ball, would later join them there in 2007, bringing the family together once again, even in rest. Throughout her life and even long after her passing, Ball's legacy continued to shine brighter than ever. She had been recognized many times over, both during her career and beyond. Back in 1960, she was already celebrated with not 1 but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, one for her incredible work in films and another for her contributions to television. 4 years later, Ball and her husband at the time, Morton, were honored at the New York World's Fair during an event known as Lucy Day, dedicated entirely to celebrating her. Following advice from Norman Vincent Peale, Ball had begun working on her autobiography in the early 1960s. She partnered with Betty Hannah Hoffman, who conducted interviews and helped shape the manuscript. Though the project had been set aside, her former attorney stumbled upon the old files years later and sent them to her children. They made sure her story saw the light of day. The book finally got published in 1997, allowing fans to hear her life story in her own words. CBS dedicated a special 2-hour program in 1976, celebrating her 25 years on television. For this tribute, both Ball and Arnaz appeared together on screen for the first time since their divorce, offering fans a touching reunion. In 1986, Ball received one of the highest honors in the arts when she was named a Kennedy Center honoree. Although Arnaz had planned to introduce her, his passing just days before the event left a heavy sadness in the air. Robert Stack, a close friend and fellow star from the Desilu days, stepped in with a heartfelt introduction. Even after her passing in 1989, the honors didn't stop. President George H.W. Bush awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and she received the Women's International Center's Living Legacy Award. Her hometown of Jamestown, New York, embraced her legacy fully, naming the Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Museum in her honor, along with renaming the local theater and even the street where she was born renamed Lucy Lane. Ball's influence stretched far and wide. Time magazine listed her among the 100 most important people of the century. Universal Studios Florida celebrated her life with a special attraction, Lucy, a Tribute, that entertained visitors for 25 years. In 2001, on what would have been her 90th birthday, the United States Postal Service released a commemorative stamp in her name. She graced the cover of TV Guide more times than anyone else, including its very first issue in 1953, holding her baby boy. Ball's impact on the women's movement was also recognized when she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 2001. She even had a room named after her at the famous Friars Club in New York. More accolades followed, like the Legacy of Laughter Award and her ranking among the greatest TV icons of all time. On what would have been her 100th birthday in 2011, Google honored her with an interactive doodle showcasing moments from I Love Lucy. That same day, nearly 1,000 fans dressed as Ball gathered in Jamestown, setting a world record and filling the town with laughter and memories. Celeron, New York, home to a statue of Ball, once found itself at the center of attention when locals nicknamed the statue Scary Lucy because of its odd appearance. But rather than hide it away, the town embraced the tribute. A new, more accurate statue was unveiled in 2016, yet the original still stands nearby, a reminder of both Ball's charm and her ability to spark smiles even unintentionally.